Uh, okay, screw it. We'll do the five things again because I didn't think this through. Okay, Marcus, give me five things you would not, five food items you would not put on your pizza.
These are five things.
These are
These
five
are five
things.
things. Uh, Lemon,
One,
spaghetti,
two, that would be delicious.
empanadas,
Three,
uh, rhubarb,
four,
and jackfruit.
five. These
These
are
are
these are five.
five things.
Your list was dangerously close to being things that would be good on pizza, but
Yeah,
all
didn't say it
right.
was good. This.
List can be real.
Jason,
Yeah.
give me five things you would need to have if you were going to a space mission.
Uh, a spacesuit,
It's one.
food supplies,
It's two.
cable that connects to my Netflix,
It's three.
a Nintendo Switch,
It's four.
and laser guns.
Pew pew. That's five
These are five things.
things. These are five things.
Hello, that was the warm up. Now it's the welcome part. Welcome to Twin Killing, the podcast where two twins talk about stuff and they're killing it. I'm Jason. This is Marcus. How you doing, Marcus?
Not too bad. How are you?
Good. I don't usually talk about my swag, but it's kind of small on my screen. I'm wearing my 2020 Lakers Dodgers dual championships shirt. Got to represent Mickey Mouse. Wearing both.
This is the best part of the lockdown.
Yep. What does it say underneath your shirt? I see Snoopy's. What does it say on the bottom?
It's Snoopy's Hockey Club.
Oh yeah. I don't know much about hockey, but I know Snoopy didn't play much. I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, unless I think of other big chit chat things, we can get right into it. Our mo Oh yeah, I should discuss this before I start recording, but I'm gonna be hosting, and you're chiming in, but mostly the same, just whatever. So our movie is Black Sunday, which came out in 1950 something. I should have looked it up. 60 actually, 60 even. Marcus, what drew you to pick this movie as the movie of the week?
So I think I said on the podcast before that I wanted to pick films from the 1001 Films to See Before You Die list. And this movie was on there. And I wanted to pick something that I think you would enjoy. And that's what kind of led to an actual mistake because I knew Mario Bava, the director of this film, also directed a movie starring Boris Karloff. We both enjoyed in a horror anthology movie, which you really enjoy. You thought,
Yep,
oh, it'd be perfect.
yep.
But that movie's called Black Sabbath, not Black Sunday. So Black Sabbath is not on the 1001 list, and this one is. So watch Black Sunday instead. I do like classic horror, so I was actually interested in watching anything by Mario Bava to begin with, anyways. So it wasn't a complete disaster, but
Sure. So, get into the movie itself and its genre, milestone status and stuff. But interesting thing I saw about this movie is, well, obviously, since it's an Italian movie, I think, yeah, to this day, I think this is kind of a trend in Italian movies, but especially old Italian movies. They're always dubbed.
yeah.
I was curious. Do you have any like thoughts or theories on why Italian movies are dubbed and most foreign cinema is subtitled with the language talking? I did look this up. Yeah.
I just think either Americans told them this or they thought this on their own, or maybe it was cheaper. But I'm gonna say it's my first instinct is that Americans, quote unquote, wouldn't want to read subtitles, so
Mm.
to cater to the American audience, they went to straight dubbing.
So there's two answers. One's pretty close to what you said. One's a little weird. So the normal answer is that the yeah, it's logistically a lot easier for two reasons. One, you don't have to pay anyone to record anything on set sound wise. You know, it's all gonna be done after the fact. You cut a ton of money out of the budget. But another thing, especially in the '60s, like right after this movie came out, uh, a lot of Italian directors, like your boy, I like him too, Sergio Leone,
Yep.
cast a lot of Americans, and Leone was like, "Well, I don't want to worry if Clint Eastwood messes up some Italian words, so I'll just dub everything in after the fact." So it is part of it is the American market, but also part of it was just a lot of logisticals to save money. But in a sort of happy or weird slash evil coincidence, in the 30s, when sound was getting popular, um, Mussolini was like, hey, if we just dub everything in afterwards, me or my ministers of culture, PC police, whatever you want to call it, can just monitor everything that goes into a movie. So that was another reason that Italian dubbing became popular is because it's like a fascist Goebbels esque, controlling dream. So there's your lesson on Italian dubbing today. Yeah, yeah,
It does make sense for dictators to be able allows them to review what gets put in.
yeah. So, but the reason I was interested in this is, also because it's very distracting. You watch the movie and everyone talks like their mouths move, and then you hear like, "Over there, it's the witch." But also because Mario Bava directed the movie, and I guess there's an aspect of this in today's movies too. But Mario Bava directed the movie, but then some other guy gets credit for directing the dubbing. Do you think that do you think that's just like a logistical credit coincidence, or do you think the dialogue director had an input in how the movie turned out?
Um, it's hard to tell for sure. I read through the Wikipedia page, almost all the sections. It was actually a really long Wikipedia article. Um, but I didn't read anything about his input, so I think that since there's such an effort to dub everything, I kind of feel like he was helping with that more than anything, more than the creative direction of the film. But it's just a guess.
Hmm, interesting. So yeah, I guess get into the movie. Uh, I found this interesting and maybe slightly disappointing because when you picked an Italian horror movie, I knew this was older than like Suspiria or a bunch, but a bunch of weirdos in the '80s making giallo films. But I was kind of hoping this would be like that somehow. But it's a lot more traditionally black and white horror movie with some sort of subtle psychological giallo influences, but not visually as much. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think the pretty much. I think it is a well-made movie, especially for the time. But the reason is on a 1001 list is more just because of the time of its, you said how old it is, and it kind of sets the stage for Giallo, like the scenes with the main character woman who plays the dual role of the evil witch and her descendant. She's very attractive, but it's 1960s attractive, so she can't show a lot of skin. But they pause on her with less clothes and stuff. And then if it was later in Argento or Fulci or Lucille Fulci or another insert other giallo director, probably nudity or actual sex or something. Yeah. So it's
Yeah, that was the most affecting. I was gonna say callback. I guess what's a callback when it applies to something that happened later? But I guess it's still a callback for me. To Giallo was yeah the juxtapositions of the transformation when the descendant becomes the witch and like the disfigurations of her face and sort of psychological becoming real. I kind of wish there was more of that in the movie. It kind of became like a medieval drama in the middle, kind of, but it wasn't. Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was interesting mix of yeah, Jalo and not Jalo, I guess.
well, I guess jumping to the end, yeah, even more so at the end when maybe I don't know, really bad with character names. I guess this is Dr. Gorobec. Guys, he did pick the story set in Eastern Europe. He picked very Eastern European names, which is apparently tribute to the source from what I read, because this is based on a Gogol short story,
I saw
apparently.
that too. And I should have read that because I like
But apparently it's not very similar plot wise. It's there's themes about hypnotizing and the occult and stuff, but they changed the plot around and stuff. So it's not. They started with I think that's how you pronounce VIY, by Gogol, and then kind of move things around.
interesting.
But anyways, jumping to the end, the main character guy, Dr. Goro Beck, he rips open the witch's dress, and it's pure bones and I guess blood. It's black and white, so hard to tell if it's blood.
Yeah, yeah.
That's probably the most quote unquote shocking image in the movie.
Okay, so I don't know if I don't know if we just discussed the ending now, but that's the part I remember the most. But uh, sure, why not? So there's this whole thing where, yeah, the descendant becomes possessed by the witch, and the good guys figure it out, and they burn the witch at the stake. And then right at the very end, super fast. I wonder if someone made someone put this in. Somehow, the good descendant comes out of the tomb, and she's like, "Oh, don't worry, we can get married or whatever," and that just ends.
Yeah.
I, I was thinking because you're talking about how much I love horror anthology movies and stuff like that. Like, I was kind of expecting like the Thriller Michael Jackson ending, where it's like we can be together, and then they cut to her eye or something, and it's like, oh, she's the evil one. That just seems like such an obvious twist, but they didn't do that.
Yeah, I didn't think about that because the narrator made a point in the beginning because it's actually similar to the beginning of the movie. It's a callback because in the flashback at the beginning, which I really liked a lot because I really liked that stuff about kind of the Inquisition style get-ups and stuff. Uh, they try to burn her at the stake then, but then she's able to call a storm to come and it extinguishes the flames.
Mm,
So they have to resort to burying her instead of burning her.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I get, but now that they're able to actually burn her, the effects will be more positive. And I guess this is 1960s, so 60s movies start having darker, twistier endings. But this is still like Hays Code era in America times. So I kind of expected to have a traditional happy ending at the end.
yeah. So speaking of the beginning, I have a hot take. The opening, like you're describing, I kind of enjoyed that more than the rest of the movie. maybe because it was such a short time frame, but I found it a lot more exciting. And when they put the curse on the witch, and it cuts to the modern day, I mean, I felt a slowdown like instantly.
Well, how do you not have? I mean, there's movies that are like more present day movies, but like they're horror present day horror movies are like gore, 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 gore the whole movie, and like they'll never slow down. But it's I don't know. It's only set a couple. Inquisition was what 1600s, and they only jumped a couple hundred years later, so it's 1800s. I don't know. I don't want to say anticipate pastoral scenes and wagons
And you got them.
but there's something to establish because it's a trope in horror movies where something terrible, witches and whatever happened in the past, but then the people forget and it becomes peaceful. I don't think it would have made sense to fast forward to a non-peaceful time. You know what I'm saying?
No, I think what I'm feeling is a general effect in that the male characters in the present day, or not present day, whatever, the current phase of the movie, 1800s or whatever, where I just wasn't super compelled, and a lot of the acting by the dudes kind of blended together. Characters were kind of similar, so I think that sort of feeling created what I said. So it's not so much that no movies can't have slow, like expositionary moments. I just didn't find myself compelled to the characters within them.
Yeah, and I think that the stuff like dubbing doesn't help try to get you to feel committed to a character or feel deeply tied to them.
Yeah, I mean it is a hard balance. I have to give them credit though, because like you're saying, you can't just have a movie that's like, oh, scary action comes in again. That would be disingenuous. So, but it was really hard to feel a lot of. I guess you're supposed to feel compassion for the descendant of the witch. They just, I don't know. It felt like a lot of beating around the bush and waiting around in the middle. Was I missing key plot points in there, or because I could see how me being distracted and being like, oh, this slow part's boring, and it was actually good or something. But I don't know.
Well, she's very sad and stoic throughout the entire movie. And then when you they introduce her father shortly after they introduce her, you could see why, because he's obsessed with the his family being cursed. So he's probably telling her and her brother, who's obviously more of a supporting character than her,
Hmm.
constantly how cursed they are. So it's not going to be a happy household.
It's interesting because, like, yeah, I guess keep going back to this. It's a movie made in 1960, probably even less progressive than America cinematically at the time. Could have used a little more of, I don't know, emotional conveyance that she felt oppressed by her father or what have you. It felt a lot like going along with it.
I have a feeling that Wikipedia says it's Galatea Jolly Film produced it and then Unidis distributed it. They're just trying to pump out movies. And so kind of studios like that, especially in this time frame, 50s and 60s, there was a lot of B movie studios and they weren't going for emotional connection. They're going for more of the allure of the supernatural elements.
Yeah, kind of go off what we were saying. The company that made this movie made movies that would we probably enjoy even less on a artistic merit, like the Hercules movies that got picked up in America. Very like sword and sandal generic action movies. Not a lot of critical praise. So I guess Baba deserves a lot of credit for making a movie that people seem connected to historically from a studio that does not seem to make very critically praised stuff.
And actually, this was apparently their first attempt to go overseas. Those movies you said, which Bava did cinematography on two Hercules movies, those were apparently made for Italy. And so they were talking about doing a movie for overseas in America. And then Bava said, I think horror is a good idea. And then he actually cast, because because he's talking about Clint Eastwood and the spaghetti westerns earlier. It's the same deal with the dual role heroine and the evil vampire and the main guy, the male lead. They're both British. That was
Mm.
actually his idea to cast British leads so that it mimicked Dracula. So he's kind of copying the story of Dracula a little bit. It's not a complete parallel. There's some differences.
Yeah, but the Dracula, yeah, that's actually interesting commonalities to go into because, like, one I just thought of is that Dracula, the whole thing, especially in the book, Dracula has to be in dirt. This whole dirt thing, very similar. They move the coffin in dirt or something. You
Yeah.
ever see the movie or read the book? The Coppola one or the book?
Nope. The only straight Dracula movie I saw was the Leslie Nielsen one, which is the most true to the story, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a wackier, also another wacky one. Like I can't
Oh
remember.
no, no, I never saw the Coppola one, which is probably truer to the novel. Um, but I did see the Bela Lugosi
Yeah,
directed. Um,
the Ghosty one's a really good movie, but it's not really directly connected to the like historical thematicism of the Stoker novel as much.
Todd Browning is the director of that one
Yeah. Hmm.
with one D.
Yeah,
He's weird.
he's a weirdo. We gotta watch Freaks at some point for the show, but uh oh yeah. So commonalities with Dracula. Well, obviously, it was very vague, and I think intentional, probably because Dracula was so popular. Like going to the dark castle, and it's like everyone's they're telling him everything's fine. I feel like it's just basic haunted house stuff.
And also, the main guy's mentor slash partner, uh, he gets tricked into uh by the evil witch's partner, Ya Yavu Yavuto or Yavovich,
Yeah.
uh, into getting locked in the crypt with her, and then she kisses him slash sucks his blood. Kind of vague because it's 1960, so there's not a lot of direct gore. But when she does that, she turns him into a what's his name? Renfield, the hypnotized.
Yeah, that's the name.
He becomes a Renfield type character for the rest of the movie until he meets his demise. But just another similarity to Dracula is all I'm saying.
So, basic question:
Eh.
when the witch come, I think they have different names. The witch and the girl.
Ace is the witch and Katya is the girl.
Right. So when everyone know when Asa's back, everyone knows she's there. Is the whole idea is that she's gonna fully drain Katya's essence and live forever? Is that what's Asa's goals?
Become
Hashtag goals.
all pow it's kind of vague. It's her goal is to kind of to become all powerful and uh rule basically because it's getting into religion here, but and religion and tall folk tales, tall tales, whatever. The quote unquote scariest thing about these witches is that they want to, and why it's okay to kill them is because they want to become as powerful as God. So I think that's their ultimate goal.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the Crucible and even just the Wiccan religion could be perceived as a direct affront to God's will or whatever. So yeah. Yeah. See, I think that's probably I don't know if well, obviously it'd be better if all the actors were better actors, like any movie. But if there were just differentiation between what's his name, the guy, the romantic lead or whatever, the guy,
Call him Gorobec, I guess, because his first name's not any better. It's Dr. Andrzej Gorobec.
right? So Gorbeck, his sidekick, the dad. I it's a black. I guess it's a black and white movie too, but they all look similar. And like you were saying, it doesn't help that they're all dubbed similar. So that was just the biggest overall drawback for me as a movie. That I was just kind of being like strung along with characters that felt like archetypes and less like you know unique people.
Yeah, that's fair.
So this movie make you more, less, or same excited to watch Black Sabbath someday?
Maybe a little less. I like this movie overall, but actually, I heard about Black Sabbath through um those what are those list website called? What now?
Oh, Watch Mojo.
Yeah, they had a top 10 horror anthology list. That's how I heard about it. Um,
Yep. You still haven't seen Creep Show.
nope.
I did make you watch. We'll talk about this some other day, but I did make you watch those two Tales from the Crypt inspired movies in the '70s.
Yeah,
Those were good. Yeah. Trying to think. I think those are like the main horror anthology films. Tales from the Dark Side, the movie's a little. I liked it, but it's a little niche. It's kind of 80s cheese. So that's it's fine.
Spike Lee did a horror anthology comedy movie.
He might, yeah. He actually produced it. I think there's even a sequel I haven't watched. But Rusty Cundiff, very underrated director, did a Raph spoof film called CB4, which is excellent. But yes, I recommend
Oh,
Hood. But admittedly, again, it's sort of a campy, fun thing. It happens a lot in horror movies in general, but especially like I feel like anthologies where it's like it's like whack, wacky acting and kind of campy fun more than like 1001 movies to see before you die material.
I think it is an anthology. It might just be a one just a horror movie, but Snoop Dogg was involved in a horror movie. He
Yeah,
might he might have been on the poster or something. I saw a large chunk of one of the tales, or it might have been that might have been the whole plot of the movie, where it's like some guy becomes a rapper by selling his soul to the devil.
yeah. I have no idea. That could be a whole film.
Diamond Dallas Page plays his bodyguard, the rapper. It's not Snoop Dogg who plays the rapper. It's an African American actor who's been in things. If I found a picture of him, you recognize him, but I can't remember his name.
Let me tell you about this guy I bodyguard for, bro. It's my brilliant DDP impression.
I think it's is it Hood of Horror?
Okay, that does sound like
Yeah.
anthology.
Oh my God, the actor's name is Pooch. Pooch Hall plays the rapper in.
That sounds familiar. I think he was in
It is
South.
three. Snoop Dogg's Hood of Horror is Three Tales of Horror. Danny Trejo and Ernie Hudson are also in it with Method Man.
Ernie Hudson's in everything. He's in so many bad B movies you never even heard of. Same thing with Danny Trejo, honestly. But
Yeah.
we gotta represent for our half Mexican side. All right. I don't know. I feel like we covered a lot of the film. We could talk some more, but let's get into our final reviews and thoughts. So you already said you liked the film. You can go first. Score, and thoughts.
I'll give it a solid 8. I could
Wow.
be convinced to go higher. I think if I talk to someone, I'll also like this movie. I really like little things like when the what's his name? Like I'm not gonna remember his name, but Gorobeck's mentor slash partner. Um, when he gets duped, I like the whole ride in the evil stagecoach, and then when he's getting walked through the tunnel, it's kind of dark and eerie, and the sound's actually really good. And he walks through the last door, and then it slowly closes behind him, and he runs at it right as it's about to close, and then it closes. Thought that was well shot. Um,
No.
See, I thought the horror parts were good. I almost tempted to go lower because if you think too much about the stuff like the non-horror parts, like you said before, they get kind of lame. Like, and, and to his credit, there's not a lot of that. So if there was more of that, it would have been a harder watch. Um, I give it credit because when you consider when it came out, it's a clear tone setter, and you could tell the inspiration into Italian horror, and I think even to kind of modern-ish horror across the world, including America. So I like to give it an 8.
All right. I agree with some of what you said. Um, I was blown away by small portions of this film. I was describing it earlier, but some of the distortion effects, like every time, it's small pockets at the very beginning and near the end of the film, when you like the witch is like fully there and her face is all screwy and doing all these powers and stuff. It's like that's compelling stuff that I would say everyone has to see at some point in their life if they're a cinemaphile. Um, I just did not have a connective tissue to the rest of the plot, but I have to be fair because as someone who watches movies on a computer while playing video games, moody, atmospheric movies in black and white are very difficult to watch. So I think in a theater, you'd have this like vague sense of like, oh, what's going on? It's dark, and I'm like existentially dreading what's going on in this house. when you're watching it from a modern perspective, it's just kind of like, oh, it's slow and boring and not making a lot of noise. I do think the dialogue could have been better. I think people talk too much sometimes, for expositionary reasons and stuff. Uh, but yeah, the effects are top notch. I would compare this. I'm trying to think of an example of like distorted horror stuff where you're like, wow, that's really cool looking. Like keep thinking of Peter Jackson when he did horror movies. Just for the willingness to like distort the human face and like make the audience uncomfortable in Dead Alive, and
Frighteners kind of too. Did you see that?
I saw that. Bad taste to an extent too, but just the experimentation and willingness to be outside the norm, but also it's like a costume drama set in 1800s. So all in all, definitely recommend. Might sort of be like, hey, not fast forward to parts, but expect it to be whatever in the middle. I have to be honest though, it's like a 6.9, still above average, still not negative, but uh, flawed film. Makes me very curious to watch future Bava and to go back and watch another more classic Jalo type film. I think I would enjoy it more. Still good, not the best.
Give it a 6.9. Nice, 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 nice.
Yep, that's a lovely score. All right. So now it's time to reveal what movie we'll be talking about next week that I picked. So usually on this show, we discuss movies. And usually those movies are narrative films. But what if it was a documentary?
What?
And what if it was a documentary that may or may not be made for television?
You guys, man.
And what if the documentary was technically released in two parts? So maybe it's more of a TV show than a movie.
You'd be crazy.
Well, that's probably true, but so are you. So screw you guys. I'm going home. But the movie we're watching next week is the HBO documentary film slash series slash it was too big for one release. Pee Wee as himself, the Pee Wee Herman life retrospective, and I figured we could talk about our critique of the film's documentary style, etc., but also just a rumination on the recently deceased Paul Rubens' life and career. So, any immediate thoughts about this startling revelation?
Sounds like fun. Like you, I'm a big fan of his whole career and the Pee Wee Herman character. So
Yeah, it should be interesting. Don't need to assign any further homework. I know we both saw Mystery Men, both seen the Pee Wee Herman movies. Wait, you probably haven't seen is it Pee Wee's Big Holiday? I think it's called.
is that the one with Joe Manganiello?
Yeah.
I did watch that.
Oh wow. I wrote a review for that for the non-existent cinemaspartan.com back in the day, but and there, I think he was in a Cheech and Chong movie. Can't remember which one. Yeah, Mystery Man, like I said. I think he's in Blow. That's
Yeah,
not,
he's in Below. I haven't seen it, but I know he's in it.
I don't know. I'm getting into stuff we're gonna talk about next week, but feel free to watch or not watch any of those in preparation for our Pee Wee extravaganza.
I would do a Pee Wee impersonation, but that would just be embarrassing.
What's that? Oh, God.
I know you are, but what am I?
Look at! I have a really small podcast. All right. Uh,
Kind of froggy.
so well, yeah. So is Pee Wee, but it's just a Trying to gotta modulate it up a little, but my throat is sore. All right, with that pause. See you next week on Twin Killing.
See ya.